You are the voice, one of the voices of college baseball. You're one of the voices of SEC baseball. So obviously, I know that you have to have on air an unbiased opinion. But you are also one of the legends that came from LSU, and I know LSU is near and dear to your heart. What is your thoughts on the year, and what do you think? What do you want to see from the Tigers in the offseason with the transfer portal happening, and to see like them improve on next year?
Well, I mean, look, I really think Jay stepped in and did a nice job. LSU, as you guys know more than anybody, is a different kind of place, and the expectations. And when you sign on to be a coach at LSU, it is just different than it is at most places. And for a guy that stepped in the first year, I can't give Jay an A because the only way you get an A at LSU is you make it to Omaha, but
Right.
I'll give him a solid B on the year. I think, look, when we went into this, we knew that pitching was going to be the weak spot for LSU. And if anybody would have told me that LSU would have the number 4 pitching staff in the SEC this year, and back in February, I'd have said there's no way. But that's what they were able to put together. And so I felt like they overachieved on the mound. Having said that, the pitching, and I was worried about this because the starters couldn't give
Yep.
length on the weekend. You had to run your relievers out there a lot. And I felt like that Gervais and I felt like the others, Riley Cooper, and I felt like Razelman got used a bunch out of necessity. And I felt like the tank was a little bit empty for those guys going down the stretch. And I think that's what hurt LSU, And then Fontenot was great at times, and he kind of go off the grid for a while. Just wasn't a whole lot of consistency with Fontenot. And so, but all in all, I think they performed well. Jay had what he had, and it's a good thing. I mean, look, don't forget, Jay brought in Riley Cooper.
Right.
He brought in Bryce Collins with him. He went and got Gervais. He went and got Razelman. So where would LSU pitching be without what Jay went and got? Now, having said that, how do you get back on top? Well, I think Jay, one thing I knew about Jay here in Omaha way before he became the LSU coach, because I had him here for, 2 years. He took Arizona to the College World Series. The word on the street always about Jay was, you ain't going to outwork him. You ain't going to out-recruit him. And you just ain't going to beat him in those categories. And he's proven that this year. As you guys know, Jay is married to the game. And he sleeps, eats, and breathes baseball. I had a pro scout tell me in Hoover the other day, he said, Ben, this class that LSU has signed is the number 1 recruiting class in the country. And he said the draft's going to steal half of them for sure. But he said even if half of those guys end up on campus, it's still going to be the number 1 recruiting class in the country. That's how strong it is. Now, you factor in the recruiting or the portal that's out there, and I already saw that Jay went and got the pitcher from Creighton the other day, who was the conference pitcher of the year 2 years in a row at Creighton. He's a weekend rotation piece. But I know Jay's still working really hard on some middle infielders, on some pitching. I think pitching is his number 1 goal right now, And so I like where LSU is right now. I think Jay's a go-getter. I don't think this stuff happens overnight, although it can with the portal that's out there. And Texas A&M proved that this year. If you hit right on the portal, you got a chance to turn it around quickly. But I think the future's really bright in Baton Rouge. I really do. I think Jay and them are going to be hosting regionals next year. I have no doubt about that, and I like where it is right now. But let's all keep our fingers crossed, if you're a Tiger fan, man, that the draft doesn't steal too many of these kids away, because if Jay gets lucky on a couple more that maybe are kind of sitting on the fence, this could be a very, very special year next year for LSU.
Yeah, and the offense obviously brings back a lot. You have Dylan Cruz, who I think is going to be the number 1 draft pick in the country next year. What I think is going to happen, which I think that the recruiting coordinator has already taken a job out in Kansas. There's rumors that Jason Kelly is the leading candidate for the Washington job. How much of a challenge is that for a new head coach coming into a new conference in an area that he's not really used to, and he's kind of just getting his feet wet, brings in a whole new staff, and now basically 2/3 of his staff is gone? How much of a difficult job is that going to be outside of just recruiting and outside of managing a transfer portal and all of that?
Well, it's going to be huge, and that's something that he didn't need on his plate right now, right?
Yeah,
when you got such a big turnover going on right now, and I'm starting to hear rumors of the kids that were basically told that might not be a spot for you next year. You better start looking elsewhere, because there's going to be a big turnover, And Jay didn't need that extra headache of trying to find a pitching coach and trying to find others to be on his coaching staff. So that's just extra headaches for him right now. So I know he's busy. He's probably not sleeping but 2 hours a night, if he's even sleeping at all. So he's trying to get it all done. There's been rumor the Southern Miss pitching coach, Ostrander, who I think is outstanding, could be a potential pitching coach candidate if LSU does lose Kelly, and I heard the same rumor too. It sounds like that's almost a done deal that Kelly may be going and going to be a head coach somewhere, and so you hate that for Jay. He didn't need that, but it's part of what happens when you have success and you do well. And clearly pitching, they did well this year, and so it's not a huge surprise, but I know Jay's out beating the bushes along with everything else. So he'll deal with it. Look, it's been a tough year for him in a lot of different ways, but he'll deal with it fine.
Who on this LSU team that is obviously going to probably be coming back next year do you think could possibly make the biggest jump and make the biggest impact on next year's team?
Well, I tell you what, Trey Morgan for me is one that still had an outstanding year, but he played hurt for most of the year with his leg. And you guys know as hitters, you need your lower half to perform, and I felt like he still hit well at times, Trey did, but I feel like there's more pop in that bat for him. Like, I feel like he's a 15-homer guy if he's healthy on the bottom half. So I think he'll get a little bit bigger and physical, and he could be a guy that really hits you home runs. I'm with you on Dylan Cruz. I don't know if I've seen a more complete player in college baseball. We always throw the term five tool around, and that's a difficult term to throw around because it's a special player that really has five true tools. But Cruz has that,
Yeah.
I think if Dugas comes back, he brings you a lot of experience, a guy you can plug in right away. Joe Bear's one for me, right? I mean, he's one that hit, 16 or 18 homers this year, first time playing big-time college ball. I think he could be a big part of that offense. I think Jordan Thompson's going to stick around offensively. He was solid this year, but I'm hearing that Jay's really hunting hard for middle infielders, and there's a few guys out there that he's pretty much got, I think, penciled in right now as transfer portal type guys. And so there's going to be a lot going on. The pitcher that I want to see develop is Ty Floyd. I still think Ty Floyd is a dude, right? But I don't know how you've been around a couple years and you don't have a consistent off-speed pitch yet. I love his fastball. It's got a high spin rate to it. It really jumps, and he can use it. But if that kid, man, if he can develop a decent slider and a decent changeup, I think he's a weekend rotation piece for you. I really do. I think he's got that kind of stuff in him, And then maybe Gervais and maybe Razelman, I think they're 50-50. If they don't get the money they want in this draft, and that would be huge to get one or both of those guys back. I don't know that they come back, but depending on what that number is and where they get drafted, you could see one of those two guys come back, and that'd be huge at the back end of that bullpen.
It kind of seemed like Ty Floyd started to figure out the secondary pitches towards the end of the year, and you could see the effect that it had, on his outings. He's starting to lengthen up a little bit, and Jay kind of gave him a little bit of a longer leash, and he was having a little bit more success. But I'm with you. I like watching him pitch. I think it's, you don't have to have necessarily a dominant 2 or 3 pitch, but you have to have a good one, something that's respectable to where you can land it. And if your fastball is not, as jumpy as it normally is, or if it's getting hit, you need something to keep them off balance. I'm with you. Circle back to the state of college baseball, right? When we were I grew up watching LSU. I grew up in college, the world of college baseball. I loved it. We were here. It's a little different down south than it is most places. It seems to me that college baseball is in a better state than it has ever been, and at least in my lifetime. I feel like the parity of college baseball is great. I feel like there's smaller teams that Southern Miss and Campbell and all these teams that were really good, Notre Dame, and I think that all of those mixed together is really good for college baseball. Is that something that you're seeing, or is that something that I'm wrong on?
No, I think you're right on that. There's one thing to that, though. This transfer portal stuff is where it becomes difficult, and I'm not a huge fan of the portal. I'm just not. I think it's too hard for coaches to have to continue to recruit their own players they have on campus. And I think in some ways, some coaches are scared to maybe coach like they want to coach, to really get on kids to try to get the best out of them, because I think some kids will just take their ball and go somewhere else if coach is too hard on them,
Right.
And I feel for the mid-majors that are out there, because you work so hard as a mid-major and you're really taking, in some cases, leftovers that nobody else really wanted at mid-majors. None of the Power Fives want them, and you go develop those kids, and we're seeing what's happening, right? I mean, the big Power Fives are swooping in with
Yeah.
NIL deals and other stuff, and they're taking those kids away. We can look around. I mean, Sonny DeShera, where he came from. I mean, look where Dolander, the SEC Pitcher of the Year, where he was last year. He gets picked up and he moves on. And so I feel for the mid-majors in some way, because I feel like, and that's in every sport, I feel like their best players could very well be taken from them every year. And it's almost like they're a minor league system for the Power 5 schools, and somebody will swoop in and scoop some of those guys up, And I know Southern Miss has a couple of pitchers over there.
Yep.
They're just sophomores, going to be juniors next year, and I'll be shocked. I mean, they may stay there, they may not, but I know some teams are after them big time, trying to suck them up. So I think it puts, the NCAA has always been about parity, right? And that was the whole idea about going to the BB Corbat years ago to make everything a little more fair for everybody. And then, of course, we had the roster movement where you can only have so many kids on a roster, because some of the Power 5 schools would just have 50 kids on a roster and suck up a lot of the best talent, but now with this portal stuff going on, man, I think it makes it a lot more difficult for the mid-majors to compete year in and year out.